What would happen if there was a naval battle between the US and China? Would this be the start of World War III? What about if it were in the contested waters of the South China Sea, where both are operating closely? And what if I told you it won't be a battle between just two navies, but will involve 6 navies and 10 major players from around the world? You might say that this is nonsense, but it's not. Let me explain. The South China Sea is going to be the biggest hotspot for naval confrontation in 2025. It involves China, the US, the Philippines, Vietnam, Taiwan, Australia, and Japan. All key players on the world stage. It has military, political, intelligence, and tactical layers that make it irresistible for a great power conflict. And people love what-if-war scenarios. This kind of video has high retention potential and is likely to go viral. So this topic is perfect for the channel. But wait, why 2025? Because we have events on the horizon that could cause a large-scale conflict in the South China Sea. The first is the upcoming Philippine presidential election in May 2022. If the current vice president and the son of former President Manny Pacquiao win, then relations with China may deteriorate. The current vice president, Leni Robredo, has been critical of China's incursions into the West Philippine Sea, which is the region of the South China Sea that falls within the exclusive economic zone of the Philippines. Robredo has promised to strengthen the Philippines' claim over the resource-rich waters if elected president. Manny Pacquiao has also been critical of China and has even threatened to go to war with them over the disputed territories. Although he is now running for president, he recently said, "If I become president, this will be my last warning. If they continue to enter our territory, I will go to war with China." While the chances of him winning are slim, the possibility cannot be discounted altogether. If elected, he might actually do it. Next is the fact that China's Belt and Road Initiative projects in the region have created significant financial obligations for many countries, including those with territorial disputes with China. For example, in 2018, Malaysia agreed to host 2 Chinese-funded ports under a port-based logistics project that was part of the Maritime Silk Road. However, the project was plagued by corruption scandals and delays, leading to a renegotiation of the terms in 2021. The new agreement gives Malaysia more control over the ports, but it remains to be seen whether this will improve relations between the two countries. Tensions over the South China Sea are likely to increase in the coming years, and the third is the presence of U.S. forces in the region. The U.S. has conducted freedom of navigation operations in the South China Sea since 2015, which involves sailing warships close to islands claimed by China in order to challenge Beijing's territorial claims. These operations have increased tensions between the U.S. and China, which see them as a provocation. The presence of U.S. forces in the region also serves as a reminder of America's commitment to its allies and partners in the area, such as the Philippines and Japan. This further complicates relations with China. So when all these things come to a head in 2025, we could see a major escalation in tensions leading to a possible armed conflict. Now let's explore this in a little more detail. China claims sovereignty over most of the South China Sea, including waters that are outside its territorial reach. They argue that they're historical rights, and they justify this claim by citing a 9-dash line that appears on a map, published in 1947 by the Republic of China government. The 9-dash line encompasses almost the entire South China Sea and overlaps with the exclusive economic zones of other countries in the region. Vietnam, Malaysia, Brunei, India, and Taiwan also have claims that overlap with China's. In recent years, China has taken a more aggressive stance towards asserting its territorial claims in the South China Sea. They have built several artificial islands and military facilities in the region and have carried out numerous patrols and exercises. In addition, China has used its Coast Guard and fishing vessels to harass and intimidate other vessels in the area. On the other hand, the United States does not recognize China's sovereignty claims in the South China Sea and conducts freedom of navigation operations in the region to challenge Beijing's territorial claims. The U.S. also has a strong military presence in the South China Sea through its network of allies and partners. Now let's look at the potential for conflict in the South China Sea. There are several factors that could contribute to a major incident in the region. First is accidental collision. With so much military activity taking place in the South China Sea, it is possible that a minor incident could occur and escalate into a major confrontation. This could involve a collision between naval vessels or a miscalculation during a military exercise. Next is the actions of non-state actors. There are several non-state actors operating in the South China Sea, including pirates and smugglers. Their activities could potentially lead to a violent encounter with the navies of the region, possibly sparking a larger conflict. Then there's espionage and intelligence activities. All of the major powers operating in the South China Sea have intelligence gathering capabilities. It is possible that a country could mistake intelligence gathering activities for a hostile act and respond with force. Finally, there is the risk of deliberate sabotage or provocation. Any number of the countries involved in the South China Sea disputes could deliberately provoke an incident in order to justify military action against another country. It is important to note that the South China Sea is a highly contested and potentially volatile region due to overlapping territorial claims and the increasing militarization of the area. However, it's also worth noting that all of the countries involved in the South China Sea disputes are members of the UN Convention on the Law of the Sea and are obligated to resolve their differences peacefully. Despite the tensions, there are ongoing efforts to manage the situation through diplomatic channels and promote cooperation in areas of mutual interest. Okay, so let's imagine that a conflict does break out in the South China Sea. What would it look like? How would the different navies involved respond? To keep things simple, let's assume that the Philippines and China are the main belligerents and that the US and other regional powers take sides based on their existing alliances and partnerships. The Philippines has a relatively small navy compared to China, but they have the advantage of being closer to the area of the conflict. They would likely rely on their Coast Guard and other law enforcement vessels to initially engage in patrols and surveillance operations. The Philippine Coast Guard has a number of modern patrol boats and aircraft that could be used to monitor Chinese activities and protect their waters. Additionally, the Philippines has a long-standing defense pact with the United States, which allows for the presence of American troops and assets in the country. This means that the Philippine Navy could potentially receive support from the U.S. Navy in terms of air cover and possibly even naval assets. On the other hand, China has a much larger and more capable navy than the Philippines. They would likely deploy a variety of naval assets to the region, including destroyers, frigates, and submarines. In addition, China has a growing number of aircraft carriers which could be used to project power in the South China Sea. China's people, as armed forces, maritime militia, or POWs, have also been active in the region and could be deployed to support the Navy's operations. Now let's bring in the rest of the world. As mentioned earlier, the US has a strong military presence in the region and would likely get involved in the conflict if it escalated. The US Navy is the most powerful navy in the world and would likely play a major role in any conflict in the South China Sea. They would likely send a carrier, strike group, and other naval assets to the region to support the Philippine Navy and other allies. Other regional powers such as India, Japan, and Australia would likely also get involved based on their existing alliances and partnerships. India and Japan have territorial disputes with China and have been wary of China's growing assertiveness in the region. Australia, on the other hand, has close ties with the US and other regional partners and would likely feel compelled to join the conflict if it escalated. In conclusion, a conflict in the South China Sea would likely involve a complex web of military, political, and intelligence activities. The initial stages could involve minor incidents such as accidental collisions or the actions of non-state actors. However, these incidents could quickly escalate with the involvement of major regional powers such as China and the Philippines. The US and other regional powers would likely take sides based on their existing alliances and partnerships, leading to a wider conflict. The outcome of such a conflict would be difficult to predict and would depend on a variety of factors, including the level of support each side receives from their allies, the effectiveness of their military forces, and the willingness of each country to engage in hostilities. However, one thing is certain: a conflict in the South China Sea would have major implications for the balance of power in the region and could have ripple effects felt around the world. Thank you for watching this video. Please hit the like button if you enjoyed it and subscribe to the channel to stay updated on all things related to warships, naval tactics, and global geopolitics. If you want to learn more about naval warfare, check out this playlist here. Stay tuned for more exciting content. Thank you again for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.